lot of companies are now taking more social positions, political positions on different topics. By the way, you have to take political positions yourself in some ways in terms of which allies, for example, or which countries you decide to do business with, and which countries not to do business with.
Which is a hard decision. No, we take positions on any issue involving us, basically. So we were the first, I believe I was the first person to say we wouldn't build a Muslim database, though no one had asked us because we would have said no. We've taken, we were very involved in, this debate as discussed around, who supports the U.S. government under what conditions. But I would say the primary and the internal culture of Palantir is people have always thought we were batshit crazy, but we are known for having the best talent, primarily technical, in the world. And we get that talent because we have an environment where everyone gets to say no. And there's a lot of kind of what you would call critical discussion around issues. And that critical discussion means there's just a lot of things we end up saying no to that one would not imagine. For example, governments who would give us large contracts, who are on the allied side. So we've never worked in China or Russia. But then there are a lot of governments that are in the gray zone. They're pro-American, but they might do things with our software we don't support. Then we've had internal discussions around, so that's...
So where is the line? I'm actually very curious. Take us inside the room, if you could, to a conversation around, which country you want to help, which country you don't, that would live in that sort of gray area.
So some of it's easy because if you're not an ally, if you're an adversary of America, we're not. But that, by the way, was not easy because we had investors who were like, well, why aren't you, for example, why aren't you working in Russia? It was a real discussion. And their version of it is, well, software multiples are, whatever, they're very large, and you turn away $50 million, you're stealing $500 million from me. And so it's like, the more complicated...
You had that conversation.
Many, many, many times. And many people who passed on investing in Palantir because of that. And they should have passed because we weren't playing around. And then internally, it gets more complicated. Just if you take, this is an exact example, without mentioning a name, large country, very wealthy country. There are certain things I would gladly support them in their efforts to do, like defend their country against attacks. But we were worried our software would be used to target religious minorities, and those religious minorities might be tortured. So we didn't sell the product. We've had examples in this country where we've faded contracts out, not because I thought they were doing something bad, but because it wasn't exactly the way we would do it. We've had commercial contracts that we haven't taken on or where we've left. Very simple things. I mean, profiling is, not something that one does in America, but there are many countries where that's perfectly acceptable. The credit score based on profile is not a controversial thing. We've walked away from contracts on that.
So you won't. So even if it's a country where it's legal in their country,
it's not only legal, and that's the easy example. It's also ethical in that country. You would not have a debate. And for example, the contracts we've walked away from, it wasn't just it's legal in that country as a standard. It was legal and ethical in that country, and it was not something we wanted to support. And by the way, to the extent I wanted to do it, which mostly I didn't, my Palantirians, you'd have to stand in front of that vicious crowd and explain why. And it's like, try that. It's very hard. I mean, I have defended certain things and put them, and forced us to work in other environments where I thought were important.